I've spent like 20 years in tech. I've built clouds, automated data centers, and fixed things that really should have just stayed broken. But when I sit down and look at AI, honestly, I feel a little bit like I'm back in kindergarten. Now, most people talk about AI like it's this magical black box. It's either going to save the world or it's going to end it completely. But after digging into the foundations for this episode, I realized something. It's not magic, it's just really, really fast and efficient at predicting things. So today, we're going to peel back the curtain to try and see how these models actually think. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Mike Knows Nothing About AI. For reference, I'm Mike, and I really do know nothing about AI. Now, the title of this series, it's not really a joke. I'm learning this in real time and sharing what I can with you. This isn't going to be a polished corporate training series. It's more of a learn along with me journey. So I've put together a GitHub repo called Learn AI with me, and we're going to walk through it together. When I make a new lesson, I'll also include a video here because let's face it, everyone learns a little bit differently. Now, my goal is to start at the very foundations and then move to a position where we can actually build out real-world agents and applications. And every lesson's really going to follow a pretty simple flow. We'll start with general concepts where we try and break down the why without including all of the jargon. And then from there, we're going to jump into some code. And we're going to try and actually build something around the topic to help make it feel a little bit more real. And then finally, we'll wrap up with gotchas, things I struggled with, traps you need to watch out for, and take a quick look at what's coming up next. For now, though, let's dive into lesson 1. Now, the goal here is pretty simple: to understand why AI behaves differently than traditional software that we're used to. And if we think about that traditional software, we really think of it being deterministic. It's been like this for years. We provide an input and then we get some sort of output. Now, if we run that same input through it again, we expect the same output every single time. In fact, usually if that output is different, well, something's probably broken. AI, on the other hand, really doesn't work that way at all. Instead of being deterministic, it's probabilistic. Probabilistic? You know what I'm talking about. The gist is, if we ask AI the same question over and over, we often get different answers. Answers that are reasonable and they seem correct, yeah, but they just don't use the same wording or have the same structure. Now, to understand why this happens, we really need to zoom out. At a high level, large language models really only do one thing. They predict the next piece of text based on everything that we've seen so far. And that's it. It doesn't know facts. It doesn't reason like a human. It's just constantly asking what text should come next. And if there's multiple good or great options, you're going to end up with great answers. It'll go down different paths. This is really the biggest hurdle to get past. AI doesn't necessarily think, it just predicts what should come next. So let's have a look. I'm going to use some code here from the lesson, but you can get the same results if you just want to type questions into ChatGPT, but where's the fun in that? Let's automate this. Follow along with the code if you want. You can find the GitHub repo in the description below or on the screen. So here's the Python example from this lesson. And don't worry, we don't need to understand all of the syntax just yet. We're just here to wrap our heads around this idea of a prediction engine. Now, in this script, we're reading our OpenAI key here from an environment file, and then we create our client with this code here. And then we define a single prompt, and we can see it here. It says, explain what a large language model is in one paragraph. So we run this prompt through a loop 3 times. So we're going to send the prompt to the LLM and then print the response. Pretty simple, right? So let's go ahead and let's run this now. So here's what we got in terms of output. We can see that all 3 answers that we've got here start off pretty similar, but then they start to move into different directions, right? We have one that talks about vast amounts of text, one that mentions it's designed to understand, and another that mentions something about interpretation. Now, each answer here is correct, but they're most definitely different. Now, another thing to note is each request and response is completely independent, right? With each run of this loop, a new session's created, there's no memory, no conversation history, and nothing is really carried over. It basically has what's called a brand new context window, which you don't really need to know right now, but we'll explore that in later lessons. So for now, just know that every time we send the prompt, the model generates a response by predicting the next piece of text from scratch. Now you might be asking, yeah, but if it's the same prompt, why aren't the answers the same, right? This is software, it's running through, we should get the same answer. And that's a really reasonable question and one I had. And the answer really is that there's a little bit of randomness thrown into the mix. Now, if you can imagine a model that answered the exact same thing every single time, well, every single blog and social post out there would look pretty much identical. And honestly, the world would be full of way too many M dashes. Now, like context, we'll explore this randomness in future lessons. But as for lesson one, I think it's a good time to sort of stop here and recap. So what did we learn? We learned that LLMs generate text one step at a time. Responses vary because the generation is probabilistic, and the same prompt does not guarantee the same answer. As well, the model has no memory by default. Now, in the next lesson, we're going to dive into the world of tokens. That's what the model actually sees and works with, because guess what? It's not actually reading words. So thanks so much for sticking around to the end, and we'll see you soon for lesson 2.